Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
We were given a code for Biomutant, which is a game I've been weirdly interested in over the last 3 years. I can never decide how interested I was in it, but it definitely
Yeah.
was one of those things where the first time I saw it, I was like, that looks incredible.
I was super, super excited for this. I actually played it at PAX and I was so into this game when it first announced. And I'm not the one reviewing this. Brad is. And I think what I was trying to think because I had the option to review it. And I think the reason was I'd heard a lot of people were disappointed in it, and I just want Biomutant to be this perfect game in my head that just never came out, as opposed to just being a game that's kind of disappointing.
Wait, so was it what was it like when you played it at PAX? Like
Fine.
what is your thought? Okay. Okay.
It was fine. Honestly, it wasn't enough to get an impression, because it kind of let you in this pretty open area, and anytime you're playing an open world game for 10 minutes, it's I don't know. And I liked my little character guy, and that was about it. And I grabbed a missile and did I don't know, a missile flew around. I threw it into a guy, and it was fun. And the setting just looked really cool. And it's
Yeah.
just a game. And it's a game I think everybody wanted to be good. I feel like
Hmm.
everybody was kind of I don't know about this, but man, I hope it's good, sort of thing. It was funny. I felt like everybody was rooting for Biomutant, me included. And then when it came out, I just heard some disappointing things, and I was just I don't know if I have time to play a disappointing long game. so
So, all right, so let's start there. Um,
yeah,
Disappointing, I think, is only a term that's kind of getting thrown around because there was so much hope for this game. I
sure, that's
think
fair.
this game harkens back to the days in my mind of 360 and PS3 where there was just so many weird mid-tier games out there.
Yeah,
Like Darksiders is always one that comes to mind as that perfect mid-tier game.
sure.
Not a huge thing, but just something kind of doing its own thing. And it kind of goes back there, and I think if you had that in mind, it's not disappointing. It's just it's a video game. It's a perfectly fine video game. There's nothing
Sure.
about this game that stands out and you're like, "Oh my god, but this." But there's also
Mhm.
nothing where you're like, "Oh my god, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't know if I can make it through this."
Sure. It's a
So,
perfectly competent video game.
yes, exactly. Exactly. I think that's where to start with. So, and then the long game, again, I got into this a little late because originally you were going to play it and I was like, oh, I'll do it because you were busy and we're kind of
Yeah.
being pissy about it. Um,
I had a vacation.
but anyway, um, so I got into it a little late, so I'd already seen some other people like, oh yeah, it is. So I was kind of like, oh god, okay, well maybe I'll just run through it and see what happens. So I beat this game in about 10 hours,
Okay.
start to finish. It's not long, and again, it's not very difficult. I played on normal, and I was able to pretty much run through it without really having to worry much about anything because if you've played any stylish action RPG, any action RPGs, any games like that where it's just essentially swords and guns, this is a
Yeah.
very generic version of those systems. If you can
Yeah.
dodge and
What
parry,
is what Oh, sorry, keep going.
if you can dodge and parry, you can pretty much make it through this game hands down easy, no worries at all. Whatever level you
Sure.
are, no stress.
What is this game exactly? Because I'm not quite sure. Because I always saw it's okay, you're a little. I understand it's an open world game where there's some stylish action combat, but what is the context for the story? Because you're a little cat thing, right?
Yep.
What is the
So
what is the whole context? Yeah.
so the context is weird because there's the larger context, which is it's set. I don't remember the exact number of years, but years in the future after the apocalypse,
Mm.
and basically all the humans died in the apocalypse,
Okay.
and so the apocalypse was caused. It's the tone's kind of all over the place because it's got the goofy Banjo Kazooie voices, it's got the
Yeah.
stylish action combat, and then the entire story. So it's got that goofy tone, but the whole story for the apocalypse is basically there's this mega corporation that basically polluted the world into death.
Okay. Very
and
Captain
from all the,
Planet. Yeah.
yeah, and from that pollution and everything, the animals started mutating and became the weird things that are there now.
Oh, okay.
So that's
Okay.
that's kind of the gist of why these animals look like what we have and are mutated and can talk and do all this other stuff because they basically evolved out of this apocalypse of pollution essentially. So
Okay.
that's kind of there. Your basic goal is that you're supposed to be some giant hero because your mom died and your mom was really strong, but she was killed by this guy, and so only you can beat this guy slash stop the tree from dying of that controls the world.
Okay. Cool. Well, I mean, that sounds like a basic startup to any like RPG though, for real.
That's the whole
Like,
that's the whole deal though. But like, yeah,
yeah.
you never really get much context as to why you are this quote unquote chosen one. But the
Oh, okay,
game like
sure.
is just like from the get go, like you're here. There's this Ronin
Oh,
that's
that's
come
funny.
to, and you're like, I just did a character creator like 2 minutes ago and walked into this town. Like I have this, and it does a couple flashback scenes, but the flashbacks are all like, here's how your mom died, and like strength comes from loss, and your mom was this great warrior, and strength, you're strong because of her,
Okay.
so you can do it. And it's like, but that's pretty much the extent of like why your character is important. And the game has
Yeah.
like two weird goals going at the same time. So one goal is that the tree of, I think it's called the tree of life or tree of whatever, it's the giant world tree essentially, is getting
Sure.
eaten by these four things, and you got to go stop the four things. But the ultimate goal is to go get the guy who killed your mom.
Okay.
And those weave back and forth between the two and are pretty much seemingly disconnected, but are also both your main goals. But you're,
Oh,
it's
wow. Oh, that's weird.
it's very back and forth, random, haphazard story. It's kind of just like we had a
Yeah.
framework and we didn't really get to put a lot in, which is a lot of what this game feels like. Is here are all of these ideas, they're
Yeah.
all here, enjoy. And that kind of just gives this feeling of like, could we have just picked one direction? Could we have picked one of these things and kept going with it?
Sure, sure, sure. So it's not like the story is cleverly hopping between these two plot lines. It's like we need an excuse to have four boss fights, but our main story is like this one guy.
One
So,
boss
but we
fight.
need to throw
Yeah.
some boss fight. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it'll literally like the names in this are horrendous. You go talk to the old guy whose name is out of date because he's old. Get it?
Yeah.
So you go talk to him, and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, you got to go talk to this person so that you can get to the next thing that's eating a tree." And then you come back like, "Oh, great job with that." I heard that Lupa Lumpin, who is the
Oh
main
boy.
villain who killed your mom, he's over
Wait,
here.
the bad guy's name's Loompa Loompan?
Lupa Lumpin is
Oh
the
boy.
main villain antagonist, scary looking monster guy who killed your boss or
That's
killed your
funny.
mom. Lupa Lumpin. So it's like, so you go back to him. It's like, oh, I heard Lupa Lumpin's over here. Maybe you should go see if he's there because you really do want some closure on this thing with your mom. You should probably go see him. And then you're like, oh,
Sure.
okay, I might have beat him. I'm not really sure. And he's like, oh, that's cool. Did you know there's another thing eating the tree over here? Maybe you should go take care of that.
Oh, okay. Sure, sure, sure. That's
So
kind of a bummer. Yeah.
yeah, um, the biggest thing that people talk about is that narrator. I guess we
Yeah.
can just jump
What's up
right
with the
into this.
narrator? Yeah, yeah.
So, because these are all animals, none of
Yeah.
them talk. They all talk in like animal talk or like Banjo Kazooie voices. If you want to get to like the video game of it,
Sure.
they've patched this now, and I haven't played it post patch. I finished it relatively close to release, so I didn't get the patch where they kind of tweaked a few things. But essentially, the narrator just describes what the person's saying. So
Yeah.
like you'll hear "Brr, brr, 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 brr," and it's like he would really like you to go talk to his friend. "Brr, brr, 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 brr. He thinks you're very strong and very wise and very able to do it. Brr, 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 brr. But if you don't have time right now, he understands." But then
Is
your
it
character
is
can
that
your character can respond too. So it's like I don't know if I'm responding to the narrator or who I'm doing because there's morality choices and there's dialogue options. So it's like, am I talking back to the character? Am I talking to the narrator? There's a lot of like weird like how the communication happens between these characters, and it just kind of by an hour in, you're just like, why are we still doing this?
Oh, okay, sure. It's like it's cute for like the first two things, like kind of setting up this narrator thing, but then it's just like every conversation.
Yeah, because it almost starts in my mind like Bastion. If you've played Bastion before, Bastion
Oh
is a
yeah,
game
yeah,
that uses
yeah.
the narrator like flawlessly, and it's such an integral part of that game, and it makes that game feel so cool. The
Yeah.
way that the narrator reacts to everything, and that was where my mind went right away. I was like, oh, okay, like I could see how this would irritate people, but this is making me feel like Bastion. I loved Bastion. And an hour in, you're like, this is not Bastion. This is just like a we could only hire one voice actor,
Okay, sure.
so this is the voice you get.
Sure.
But just the whole time,
That's yeah. No, that's weird because I was thinking like there's other games that do like that sort of babble stuff, but they just like Okami. Like I love like Okami
yeah.
to me. Everybody talks about Banjo Kazooie, but I think Okami is my favorite babbling noise, or
Did
actually
you ever?
any Ico or Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
And then they just translate it, and then they don't need somebody. I mean, if you already do it, but you already have the voice acting of the character. That's weird that you need to do like an additional thing on top of that.
Well, and you've got, I mean, you get the subtitles from the narrator anyway. so it's like the subtitles are there on the screen anyway from the
Oh, that's so
narrator, so
strange.
it's like it's very weird, and it feels funky. um
Yeah.
one of the other things this game really tries to do is morality choices. The
Yeah.
light and dark, are you going which way? It does the most annoying thing I've ever seen with these, though. It gives you the angel demon on your shoulder, and
That's
like
very funny.
personify. It was the first time. Which again, another thing with this game is it's great the first time. So it gives you actually like the characters, like every time there's like a morality decision, like light and dark little characters pop up in front of you and argue back and forth about like, oh, blah, 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 you should do this, it's the right thing. But and they go back and forth at it, and it's just every single time, like even if it's like some like weird little simple morality choice of like, well, do you want to go to the left or to the right, which
Yeah.
they have to pop up and have their little annoying like eight back and forth with each other. And it's
Is
just
it so?
like,
Are they actually like modeled angels and demons, or
yeah,
is it just like a? Oh, that's kind
no,
of
they're
awesome.
like they're fully animated characters that just kind of go poof, and then like just talk to each other for a second, and then you make your choice, and one goes and the other goes and then they disappear.
But that is something that simply could have been done with a button press, as opposed to actually having something like or animated theater sort of thing with every morality decision.
Exactly. And again, it's one of those things where it's cool the first time, but by the end you're just like, oh, yep, come on, okay, let's run it through, because there's never anything good is probably too harsh for word. There's nothing ever anything like interesting or involving or that's pushing things forward in these. It's just a reflection of like, just so you know, you're making this choice. It could be important.
Are they? I mean, I probably know the answer to this. Are they ever interesting choices?
No. The
Okay.
the main choice it makes is it gives you the, and it's again that very light, dark, bad, good.
Yeah.
Clearly this bad, clearly this good choice that it gives you is there's two tribes in here, and one tribe is trying to conquer everything because strength is key and you can just rule over everybody if you're the strongest, and the other one's the like, oh, but we should all work together group. And you
Okay.
can pick
Sure.
which one, yeah. You can pick which one you want to go into. So again, none of it's like painfully bad. Like there are little things that are
Yeah.
irritating, like that I just wish they kind of would have either done less of or pushed to the side or gone, you know what, we don't have time to fully implement that. But I did have like a decent time playing it. Like again, like you said, I'm kind of okay with just a very average game now and then where it's just like, you know what, this is just
Sure.
it's just a video game. I'm not sitting here running through thinking really hard about what this game's trying to say or having a
Yeah.
really difficult time or really struggling. I'm just playing a video game and just swinging my giant sword at some different animal things.
I mean, is the setting at least interesting? Like the character designs and like the. Cause I remember like when this game came out, there was like a walking mech hand and like
Yeah.
crazy contraptions and that sort of thing. Like they kind of sold this game like of having like a weird setting, and then it's like when you're talking about it, it's like, well, it's not that weird a setting sort of thing, but like it does it have a weirdness to it or no?
Not really. It's again, it's nothing. It's nothing original. The weird handgun is kind
Oh,
of
okay.
fun. So you do get that towards the end of the game, but you sit on top of the giant mechanical hand, and then when you fire, it flips over and does like a finger gun.
Oh, that's good.
So that's really cool. So you walk around like on the fingers, then it flips over, does like a finger gun, and it does
Yeah.
like a full recoil. It's kind of fun, and it has some like it has lots of mounts which are kind of fun. That's really the only unique one. You get a giant mech that you can kind of again customize with random parts you happen to find around, like you
Yeah.
would assume. But the setting is it's kind of Horizon-ish, where it's a lot of like
Hmm.
old like, okay, here's clearly what was a highway, here's a
Yeah.
train track, which again the names in this trains are called chugga chuggas, so you had to go to like you had to like follow the chugga chugga tracks, which again I think trying to be cute with the animal theme but just too
Yeah.
much.
It's sometimes it's so funny because sometimes that's sort of like I guess that like in world language can be like super fun or just incredibly annoying, and I don't know what it is. Like I feel like Doom Eternal, like when they did theirs, they had like weird names for stuff and fun crazy like sounding things, but
Yeah.
it was cool. But then it's like but then there's a fine line where it like turns into like a bad kids show, and like I don't know why that is, like what the sort of like nomenclature something makes it bad. But I get like a chugga chugga for a train does sound lame, but if you called it like I don't know, Super Traveler or something, like that's
Yeah.
kind of a cool name now.
Yeah, and again, like to your point, I feel like other games have done this and come up with those things, but
Yeah.
it does have that take that weird like kid show vibe here and there, because again the characters all look like they're straight out of like a platformer, which is kind of fun
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because you don't see those in a game like this. But combine that with the weird names, like you've got Loompa Loompan and the Chugga Chuggas, and you go get on the up and downs, and
Yeah.
it's this weird thing where you're like, okay, I get that we're kind of going for this more cute, fun vibe,
Yeah.
but you pushed it a step too far. We're too close
It,
to like kids show versus like this, because I mean the
but
the
is it a
combat's
kids
there.
game?
No, but that's again that's where I'm saying like that's it could be kind of fun to play with that, but you like I don't know if they went too far, if it just doesn't fit or what. Because again, you've got
Yeah.
the platforming characters, you've got the names, you got the Banjo Kazooie voices or Okami voices, if that makes you feel better.
Yeah, it
Um,
does.
but then you have like the stylish action combat where like you're swinging your giant sword around, you're shooting stuff, you're doing all this stuff that feels much more like just your general kind of action game. So it's this
Mhm.
weird kind of back and forth that it never really hits anything.
Gotcha. That's kind of disappointing.
Um, Yeah. The one thing I will really say is the map in this game I really like. The like main menu map where you can like zoom in and out and everything. It does lots of like terrain levels and it's very clearly like a 3D rendered version of like the actual environment.
Oh,
So
sure, sure, sure.
it's very helpful and it's very nice and I really like that map. So I feel like there's there's one thing they nailed, the map in this is really good.
Well, that's a big thing because usually you hate maps with like, especially like anything even smelling like an Ubisoft map. I know you don't like.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. There was lots of side stuff. I skipped most of it. The game follows already a very fetch questy style of gameplay where it's like, "Hey, go get the 5 of these, bring them back and I can build this for you. I built this
Hmm.
for you. Now go do the boss." And it kind of follows
Oh,
that
yeah,
pattern
okay, yeah,
which instantly turns me off to side quests because it's like I know your side quests are going to be around this same style already, so it's like if I'm already
sure,
doing what feel like side quests for my main quest, I'm just going to leave those to the side.
yeah,
But
no,
I didn't
yeah.
get into those, so maybe those have some really cool stuff in them, but wasn't wasn't quite ready to invest that much of a time into this.
Hmm.
But anyway, it's a really weird game. I think it's one of those games where it is what it is.
Hmm.
It's not. I don't think this is a game that's trying to be the next God of War, Horizon, Last of Us, huge. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, yeah.
it's doing some things, some okay, some not so okay, and it's just a video game.
I mean, like, is there like any hope? Like, if you hear like a Biomutant 2, you're like, hey, if they fix a lot of this, then like it could actually turn to something cool. But is it just like so average that like you just need to fix a lot of things?
There's a lot of things to fix. The thing that makes me hopeful about that is just again I haven't played it post patch, but the patch they came out with was literally like people thought the narrator was too much. We toned down the narrator. People thought this was too much. We fixed this. So I think just
Sure.
whenever you see that like okay we're already going to respond to this stuff, that always makes me feel a little bit better. So
Hmm.
again I think there's some cool stuff here. Like you said, the characters designs are kind of cool. It does have a really cool looking aesthetic. I think if you just watched a 2-minute gameplay chunk of this, you do
Hmm.
get a really cool impression from this game and you do really have hope of like man if they could deliver this 2 minutes for 10 hours this could be really cool. So I think there's stuff there. I just think there's some stuff that it's like all right we gotta fine tune this a little bit. We gotta axe the
Sure.
names. We gotta focus a little bit more on combat, make that a little bit more solid. We need to get our storytelling in line. There's some things that you can go okay we could narrow this down and find a good Biomutant 2 here.
Hmm. That's cool. At least there's
But
some hope.
for sure. Anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we'll see you later.
Bye.